Welcome to the new season of the Live Your Spa Life show. The Spa in Spa Life stands for Seek Power Always, that divine power within you to do what you're here to do. The theme for this season is intentional living. Amazing people like you share ways to live by design and with purpose to ensure that this short ride of life occurs with choice, physically, financially, spiritually, and in your relationships to create a world-class life. In these times of uncertainty, it's time for you to move past the distractions and start trusting yourself more through your God-giving knowingness. No one truly knows better what's best for you than you. In this season, you'll have plenty of examples of people choosing their best life and creating a positive impact through intentional living. Thank you for sharing your precious time with us and being part of the Live Your Spa Life conversation. With us today is Brent Mendenhall. He is born and raised in Iowa and entered the U.S. Army in 1986, served nearly 25 years. Thank you for your service. And Brent retired in 2008 and immediately started serving as the Senior Department of Army Civilian in the United States Army Special Operations Command, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He retired as a government civilian in 2022, just this year, and spent nearly 33 years at Fort Bragg. He also served in the fire service, mostly as a volunteer, reaching the rank of fire chief. Retired from the fire service after 27 years, has a master's degree from Eastern Kentucky University in safety, security, and emergency management. And he is a fire officer too, fire service instructor, and EMT, and now enjoys working with his little brothers at the RAD Diversified, where he builds a solid relationship with both of them and aids in developing their company and the future leaders within their company. Brent, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Miss Diane. I'm really happy to be here. The bio, makes me sound a little bit, bigger than what I've done. I'm pretty humble, but thanks for the, putting my bio out there. Been around Fort Bragg for quite a few years, so really, that's kind of where I remote now. So really, I just really want to say thank you for having me and let's, have some fun and get after some things.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things that you gave me early on when we connected was this book here about Make Your Bed. Yes, and, it's a little book, but it is a powerhouse and packed with a lot of great things. Share with our listeners, what is one of the important lessons about making your bed?
What I take away, Diane, from making your bed is, you start with the most routine task every morning. And I know it's kind of, I remember Craven uses making your bed, and there's a reason for it, because you make that bed in the morning and you go after your mission, go after your tasks throughout the day. And, we're not always going to be perfect. We're not always going to accomplish all of our tasks, but, in the day, we come back to that make bed and we just start all over and keep getting after it. And that's really, as I grew in leadership and I apply my leadership styles and traits, I really try to make my team understand that, you start with that simple task, get it accomplished, and then get after it the rest of the day. And, it's going to be okay. We may make mistakes, but at the end of the day, we're going to go back to that made bed, and tomorrow's going to be a new day and we'll get after it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes people forget that, if we can't accomplish the simple things, how can we do the bigger things in life? And so it really points out a lot of the building blocks of what it is that we can do in life and make the difference. So, a lot of people, especially, a career in the military and just seeing all the things that you have seen, I can relate on a level of, with the police department, because we see things that most people will never see in their lives, and we hope our friends and family don't ever actually see. What are some of the things that, that you've experienced, now as a civilian that has you kind of look back on your career and has you think, like, what are some of the basic things that you learned that you think that everyone should actually have as kind of part of their repertoire in their life?
I think, one of the basic things you actually keyed on it when you started talking just a couple of seconds ago, do routine things routinely. If you do your routine things that you're supposed to do in life, you're supposed to do, in your profession, and if you do those routine things routinely, when things go, when chaos starts happening, you're able to react to chaos and control that chaos. Because really, everything's about controlling chaos. I look back in conflict, combat, or whatever, or on a structure fire call as a leader in the fire service. It's all about controlling chaos. But if you can't control chaos if you don't have that standard doing routine things routinely, properly train your team, give them the proper motivation and guidance and direction. And if we accomplish that, everything will go pretty good in life. Not always going to be rosy and great, but if we do those routine things, and we can keep moving forward.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you can relate to, especially when you're under fire or you've got, some chaotic things that are going on, referring back to your training is huge, because it becomes like automatic of, when you train and you prepare for the things to be out of control. And even though you may not know the specifics at the time, when you can revert to your training, then, there's some comfort in knowing what to do when hard things come up.
Absolutely. A good example of that, Diane, is, if you look at the old Warsaw Pact, Russian doctrine, you could study Russian doctrine, and they're very, structured leadership. And, one person, you only report to the hires, and very structured, and they only operate by that doctrine. So as a Western, country, United States, we can study that doctrine, and that's how they're going to look on the battlefield. What's unique about, like in the United States, U.S. Army or Department of Defense, we delegate leadership all the way down to the lowest levels, and yeah, we train, and we do train routinely based on our task, but we train so well, and we delegate that leadership to make decisions at the lowest level. When, crap does, go to hell, we can continue to operate. You take out a leader in the chain of command, like the old Warsaw Pact, the unit below him just basically falls apart. So it's all about, delegation of authority and lower, the lowest level decision making and doing routine things routinely. So absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you have done, some special ops and some things that, obviously we can't get into the details about here, but what are some of the things that you learned from doing that kind of work?
One thing I learned, I spent, like you said, I only spent my first 3 years in the military outside of Special Operations Command. Rest of my life, I spent under United States Army Special Operations Command, and a little bit, they allow us to operate a little more freely than Big Army. Big Army is still very chain command structured, very, layered chain command. We can operate a little more independently and a little more ability to make decisions at our level based on the environment that we face. One unique thing about special operations is really truly understanding your operational environment. What you have in front of you based on where you're at in the world, and understanding the people. It's all people based, knowing for what I did in special operations, which was psychological operations, understanding human behavior, understanding the populace, understanding the background, the history of where you're at, and able to really understand what you're doing in that country. So a little bit different than Big Army. I don't know if I would have survived 25 years in Big Army. I'm pretty confident I wouldn't. I probably would have done a 4-year enlistment and got out, but I enjoyed it. And the men and women you work is absolutely the best of the best. I think, on the civilian side, they hear about special operations, special forces, Ranger Regiment, PSYOP, CA. It truly is the tip of the spear. And that's the phrase in special operations, because, our patch is the arrowhead, and, we're the tip of the spear, and we're always in countries. At any given moment in use of SOC, we're probably in about 65 to 70 countries. Like today, if you took throughout the globe, I imagine our men and women are in probably 45 to about 65 countries on any given day. A lot of people don't realize that, it's not just when you're at war. We carried the brunt, since 9/11, we carried the brunt in a lot of other operations, and the impact it had on our forces, is just amazing. And, a lot of people out there really, fighting that physical and that mental recovery. So, and that's really important to me too, staying attached to those organizations that help our special operations warriors.
Mm-hmm. Well, especially in the last, several years, people have really kind of lost their mind, in that, in just being able to move through challenging things, to have critical thinking, to really be able to step aside of chaos and see, really be able to distill the truth and see what's happening with that. Yeah. And a lot of that comes down to fear, whether it's perceived fear, people still react in that way. What's your orientation to fear, and how can people move through it just more smoothly?
Orientation to fear for me is having confidence in my team, having confidence in myself as a leader or as a member of the team, understanding that I've been given the best opportunity to succeed. What's unique about special operations also, we are given the best training, the best equipment, the best intelligence, the best support available to the Department of Defense, and having that confidence in you and your team is critical. And I think that's what it is to overcome that fear. If I fall, or if I, once I make a mistake, but mistakes happen. But if I make a mistake, I know that person to my left and my right, or that team adjacent to operating to my left or right, we got each other's back, and we're all professionals, and we're recovering, keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I just want to take a moment and just, reach out to our listeners, because if there's a part of you that is like, I'm not sure how to relate to this because I wasn't in military service, or I wasn't, I talk a lot about being in the police department, and why we bring a lot of these experiences to you is, it's like how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so when we talk about having training about, the people at our side, right? And the people, you want to have people on your team, whether you are working for yourself as an entrepreneur or you're in a business. Moving through this life really has to do with the people you surround yourself with, the type of training that you're doing right now. You can really start looking at what are you doing to train yourself to have the kind of experience of the life that you want to live. Do you need to start buffing up your exercise, right? Because when we start doing exercise, we can have more focus and more clarity. Are we paying attention to what we're putting in our body? Especially here, we're filming around the holidays. There's a lot of parties and there's a lot of temptations and things that are out there. And it's not about not indulging, it's about making wise choices, right? And it's about being able to look at that bigger picture. So part about what, Brent and I are talking about is, looking about how you can get through hard situations, like how you can, be in like the worst of the worst circumstances and be able to move through those. And so Brent, there's a mental aspect, there's a psychological aspect that can affect people way beyond the trauma they've experienced, whether, it's in military service or, we all respond to situations differently. And so there's many civilian experiences that people are struggling with. There's like a high of suicide now. There's a high of depression. There's a lot of things that are going on right now. So I'd like you to touch about just going through some tough times yourself and how you were able to pull yourself through.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go backwards just a little bit because I'm going to lead up to where I'm at now. U.S. Special Operations Command in MacDill Air Force Base, obviously everything's driven off the congressional budget, that gets allocated to Department of Defense. Then it gets split down to the commands. But U.S. SOCOM, I want to confidently say for at least the last 3 or 4 years, maybe longer, the number one priority for the U.S. SOCOM commander in MacDill, and what U.S. SOCOM is the headquarters for Air Force Special Operations, Marine Corps Special Operations, Army Special Operations, and Navy Special Operations. So you got your SEAL teams, your Marine Raiders, your Special Forces, Special Operations in the Army, and then you got all your Special Operations in the Air Force. His number one priority for funding, he'll have his one to end list, the SOCOM commander, that his number one must fund fully, no matter what. You would think it's weapon systems, trucks, personal protective equipment. Absolutely not. His number one funding for the last few years has been what's called POTF. It's preservation of the force and family. And all that is fully fund the facilities that they have put on the different bases where we operate at, and who they brought on to get after the mental health of our operators and the physical health of our operators is unbelievable. And now I'll back that up. Years ago, I retired in 2008. We weren't real familiar with traumatic brain injuries. We didn't take mental health real serious at the time. We almost kept it quiet because we were so worried about our security clearance. Because back then, if you had mental health issues or you even went and seen somebody, it could impact your security clearance. Well, in special operations, if you don't have a security clearance, you don't get to play with the boys and girls, out on missions. So you're no longer part of the command. So that has one step. And now if you kind of take where we're at now, mental health with that preservation of force and family is the number one priority for the SOCOM commander. And we're really getting after, I think we're leading both the civilian industry and the government industry with taking care of mental health with our operators. And kind of really up to me, I never got experience in uniform that support we had for the mental health aspect. And, I shut a lot of things down. And it wasn't until recently, well, I kind of always knew I was kind of had some issues, but it wasn't until recently that I really, I did go through addiction in 17 and 18. I'm in a solid place for that right now, but I just really started looking at my mental health and really understanding that I need to find myself again. And a lot of the guys and gals that retired around my time are really starting to see those impacts, around this time now, and realizing there's a lot of issues we got to take care of.
Right. Right.
Like I said, at 17, 18, I went through addiction. It kind of, I'm not ashamed of it, because it made me who I am. But I am taking care of my mental health now, starting to get back in a little bit of better shape and take care of my physical health. I put on a little bit of weight since I retired in '08, and get that back down. And you just got to take care of both, and as we take care of both, that allows you better freedom in the fight. You got more movement, more freedom mentally and physically in the fight.
Right. So Brent, it seems surprising to me that that is the highest focus of budget is on that mental wellness. And would you say, is that for people who are still enlisted, or is that the retirement? Because, as to your point, it's years later, you're starting to feel, the effects. It's the retirement community, and we see the homelessness on a rise, and VA, are supposed to step up on some of those things, but we see a lot of veterans on the street. And, so where's that budget going, and, how is it actually impacting those?
Yeah. Well, one thing for me as a retired member of Special Operations Command, they have this coalition called the Special Operations Care Coalition, and I can reach out and I can get a case manager assigned from SOCOM directly to me to help me through these processes. There's also some very unique, and I'm going to pimp their websites out and their names because I love them and they do great things. There's two organizations that I really stay linked with, and what's amazing, my little brother, the CEO of RAD, is really doing a lot for them too, is Special Operations Wounded Warrior Foundation and Task Force Dagger. Great Special Operations warriors, all doing it for free. They want the most money they can to go toward the veterans, and so those two organizations, they're teamed up with SOCOM headquarters. They work directly with the Care Coalition, and they target the guys and gals like me that are already separated, and to get them help and make sure they get on the right track to mentally recover, physically recover, and get that outside help. So absolutely, I can reach out and be part of that Care Coalition, get me a case manager, and they take care of they're starting to really take care of their retirees and their service members that didn't retire but got out either wounded or just got out of the service under special operations.
So is it accurate to say that, if let's say you see a vet out on the street or somebody who's having some challenges, that you can refer to them to one of those two organizations and they can get the resources that they need?
I would say, I'm going to put it like this. There's a lot of organizations like Task Force Dagger and Special Operations Wounded Warrior. Those two organizations focus on special operations veterans. But I'm going to tell you, knowing the presidents of their boards and everything, I would pretty safely bet that they would take care of any veteran if they have the capacity and ability to do so. But those organizations are focused on special operations veterans. But there are other organizations. You just got to really watch when you look at these organizations that are out helping veterans. You really got to do a little bit digging and see how valid they are, how much of their overhead spent on employees and budget, and where their budget goes, because a lot of times they brand real heavy with Under Armour, the Wounded Warrior Foundation does, and they got a big overhead. Not all their money go directly to helping veterans, but they're out there. You just got to do a little research.
Okay. All right. That's good to know for sure. So what would you say for you, what was, some of the disempowering things for you? Like, I know you talked a little bit about having addiction and and I know depression, comes into realm with that. And I think, regardless of whether people are in the service or just, going through challenging things in life, they've experienced this at different levels. When did you know that you had a problem, and what were some of your steps that you did to move through it?
I've known, I truly think, if I look back now, I know I've had a problem for a long time. Depression, finding happiness. I jumped around a little bit in the government because I couldn't, I always double thinking myself toward the end, does the right job, and I couldn't find happiness in myself, and solid depression. I believe my depression comes a lot from survivor's guilt. They're starting to see now that that's one of the leading drivers from veterans is survivor's guilt from the last 20 years of almost sustained combat downrange, and then really even before that. if you look at Special Operations Command, we never really leave the fight. If you kind of go back the last 50 years, somehow, some type of contingency operation, some type of operation somewhere in the world, the Special Operations guys and gals have been at it. So it builds up, it really does. And like I said, they're just now really starting to take a proactive approach to that. So it's so exciting. Really getting after suicide. There's lots and lots of help out there for suicide. You mentioned suicide on the rise. Everybody's heard the term 22 a day. It fluctuates a little bit, but approximately 22 veterans commit suicide every single day. And to me, that's 22 too many. We're never going to be perfect at it, but God, we got to get after it. And ensure everybody knows there's a way out there. There's a way to get help out there. And you got all your suicide prevention numbers. The VA has prevention numbers, but there's a lot of bureaucracy in it, and you really you just got to dig through and find the right help. One thing I do also is I don't think I mentioned it to you before, but I'm on the North Carolina peer support team and for police, law, fire, mercy, medical, and dispatchers. So if somebody's struggling with anything, I'm part of a team they can call. I've been trained with peer support and critical incident stress management. And I go, because I've been through a lot, so I can relate to a lot of what they may be going through, from depression to addiction to just everything. So I really enjoy that. If I can make a difference in one person's life and put them on the right track, and I've done that, that just fulfills me. It really does.
Oh, it's so good. Well, thank you for your support in that as well, because we definitely need to reach out to those who've served and have really literally put their life on the line, and now they need to have some support as well. But just even in the general population, there's just people that are struggling with things on a much deeper level. And, just through your own personal experience and also in the work that you're doing now, what do you think are some of the things that can be either said or things that people can do that can help them get perspective and to move through some of those dark days?
I think a lot of it's, okay, I'll talk from a leader standpoint. Knowing your people and what they're going through, you can get a lot of different definitions on leadership, book answers. My definition of leadership is real simple: know your people. If I know my people that I work for, because as a leader I work for my people, when something's not right, and have open communication, have trust. Of course, you talked to me about smiling and all that. Everybody throughout my entire career, everybody thought when they first got to know me, they thought I was the most unapproachable leader in the world. But once people in my community and both the fire service and the military, once they got to know me, they understood how approachable I was and how concerned I was, how much I want to make sure I help people and make sure they understand there's always help. They can always communicate with me. I think, communication can solve a lot. And I think that's important in the civilian side. Know your people. A lot of people go home at 5 o'clock and they feel, they don't got to worry about that person till the next morning. And I think if you have that mentality, I think you got to look at yourself and kind of adjust a little bit and understand that, if you're a leader, and maybe I'm new to the civilian world, Diane, so maybe it's common in the civilian world, but to me, the people I work for on my team, I want to be there for them 24/7. And I think if you do that and they really, truly, you gain their respect and they respect you, I think we can minimize or stop a lot of issues, mental type things, and make sure they get the right help. You ain't got to be the smartest person with what resources. You just got to know how to push them to the right resources. Right. I don't got to be a counselor, but I need to know where I can get help for them. And I think that's important.
Right. Absolutely. So, there is something about being able to create safe spaces, right? And environments that actually inspire you and help you in life. And so one of the questions I always like to ask my guests is that we live differently in our bedroom versus our living room or our office. So what is your favorite room in your home and why?
My favorite home, I'm sitting right behind it right now. One, I get to talk to you and do these type of things, but I can get away from everything. Currently, I'm a lucky man right now. Currently, my grandbabies are living in my backyard. But when I come in this room, they wear me down quick. They can just completely take me from from great energy to nothing in like 5 minutes. So I get in this room, I got my gun safes. I can get in here and tinker. I got all my work stuff. The little neat stuff that really means nothing to anybody but me, or on my walls to look at and remember things I went through in my life. So this is my space right here. And it used to be the fire department. I could be at the fire department at 6 o'clock in the morning, on a weekend, pulling a truck out and wash their fire truck or whatever, that was my happy spot. And now that I remote work, this is my happy spot. Happy spot.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting that, when we're when we get really clear on what our purpose is and why we're here and to have that actual purpose, it does give us that reason to get out of bed and to make that impact and really, shift and change lives. And I think that is such an important thing. It's interesting that in our world today, there's so much of this people wanting instant gratification, right? And wanting, whether it's participation trophies or getting credit for, just doing some very basic things. It's very interesting where, people can put in all the effort, they can do all the things and line them up, but they could still not work out. And there is a concept, in fact, that is, again, also out of this book that you and I have looked at here about making your bed, about the concept about being a sugar cookie, and I'd love for you to explain what that is and how does that relate to how people can have their outlook on life.
Yeah, well, I think Admiral Craven basically said, "Don't be a damn sugar cookie." I've read the book numerous times, but really, if you, for the listeners, if they check out his, that book is based off his commencement speech at University of Texas. And I know you watched it. Go back and listen to it. That book is kind of written off of that. But don't be a damn sugar cookie. Understand life's not easy all the time. It can be easy at times, but life's not easy. Accept what it is. Accept your faults. And you shouldn't expect to be provided that trophy for all concept. I know I don't raise my grandbabies or my kids that type of concept. But yeah, but at the end of the day, don't be a damn sugar cookie and get after it. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be easy. I've learned a lot of that in this job, in the civilian side. I can't be a sugar cookie. It's different in the military, and people don't move at the speed of war in RAD Diversified, but I got some of the best teammates in RAD that I would take to war with. I'd probably train them a little bit, take them to the range and stuff like that. But, there's good people everywhere is what I'm getting at. And
right.
Be a good teammate. And when things go to shit, you got a good team by your side, up, down, left, and right. And that's what it's about. And not everything's going to be handed to you easy.
Right. Well, and I think the concept that comes out of that is that, we can do hard things, right? And it may not look the way we think it's going to look. And, you can prepare all you can in every way and things still may go sideways. And so, it's important to know that, as long as we're putting our best effort forward and, we're knowing how to pivot, right? Being able to shift and change is such an important thing. And to know that we're not here to do it by ourselves, right? We need to have a team of people. We need to have people who are at our side. And that's where some of those concepts come from in the military or even in the police department where, we talk about who's got your six, right? Who's got your back, like who's the warriors that are at your side, like who is walking with you through life. And so to know who that person is, who you can call at 2 a.m, who can support you, it's important to build this structure of people that you can trust and you can rely on so that you can have those foundations. So it's such an important thing to be able to have. So
it is. It absolutely is. One of the greatest things my brother did to me and my little brother, and he said, bring on some veterans. And I reached out, some heavy hitters, and based on who I was in the military, I've had some people, give up their other careers to come join RAD Diversified, and they're enjoying every bit of it, and what's neat about it, they were great leaders. They really were, and they're great teammates. And that's rubbing off on employees within RAD that never served it, never served in the military. We don't make RAD a military institution, but just the concept of leadership and being there for each other. And, only thing a little different, they don't move at the speed of war on the civilian side. I'm used to move, boom, boom, move forward. And, but I can, I'm not a sugar cookie, so I can deal with that. But exactly what we just talked about goes back to doing routine things routinely. If we do routine things routinely, like you said, when something goes to shit, we can control that chaos and keep moving forward. You might take a step back, but as long as we recover with 2 steps forward, and we'll always be good.
Absolutely. Well, Brent, I know that our listeners are going to want to stay in contact with you. How can they best do that?
Best way to stay in contact with me is I got my email is brent@raddiversified.com or brent.a.mendenhall@gmail.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I think you have my LinkedIn profile. I'll talk to anybody. I'm a people person. I love to connect people. That's the reason I love working so much like with Special Operations Wounded Warrior and Task Force Dagger. I've linked, so many different people up with them, and it's just a lot of fun. I believe in the right people being in the right place at the right time for reasons, and believe in working together and moving forward.
Nice. I love that. Well, as you know, that our theme for this season is intentional living. So in what way are you living an intentional life today?
The way I'm living an intentional life today is getting my mind healthier, getting my body healthier, applying. Right now, I'm running the leadership development program for RAD Diversified. We're going to grow our leaders internally, to the best of our ability. If you can train that person under you to replace you, because Dutch Mendenhall, my brother, the CEO, is not going to be around forever. Those directorate leads are not going to be around forever. So I'm loving it. I love leadership development within the company, and what I'm seeing now with some of these real young leaders, 25, 30 years old, that are team leaders in our company, it's just so much fun. And, if I can leave a legacy by making them better and knowing that they're going to continue to drive this company further and go out and be great Americans, that's what it's all about.
Perfect. Well, thank you again for your service, for being here today, and for taking your leadership skills and bringing it to the civilian world.
Thank you, Miss Diane. I really appreciate it. Great talk. Love talking with you, and look forward to the next time we connect.
All right. Thank you. And for our listeners out there, if you're suffering from depression or, suicidal thoughts, or just having a hard time in transitions, whether it's military into civilian life, or just, the changes in the world that are happening, and if they are feeling insurmountable to you, just know that there is help out there. Make sure that you reach out. Just reaching out to one person can make the difference to get the resources that you need, and to be able to just take that next breath and know that you're here for a bigger purpose, right? That all the challenging things that happen to us, they're happening for you in some way to make you stronger, to use those skills to get them out in the world. So recognize that greatness that you have and get out there in the world and live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.